there, Floating in Dreams. This is going to be a look back at my eyeshadow palette collection in 2016. Welcome to everybody watching today. Thank you so very much for joining me. Today we are doing another installment of Declutter Regrets, which is a video series I like to do in here once a month, where I go back to an old video and sort of see whether I regret getting rid of any of those products. So I did this for a lot of my eyeshadow palettes by brand in the past, and I'm currently sort of going through old declutters that I started doing before I moved into this place in 2017. And as I was preparing those videos, I noticed that I did a video all about my eyeshadow palette collection in 2016. So that's 9 years ago almost, and I'm like closer to 8.5 because it was posted on the 31st of December, I now see. But I was curious, you know, what did I have at the time? What products were there? How did I store things? So we're gonna have a look at this video together to see what was in my makeup collection at the time. So let's have a look back, let's say like 9 years ago or so, and have a look at where my makeup collection stood at the time. Whether any of these things are still in my collection today, because it could very well be, and also whether, like, if I got rid of the things, like did I regret getting rid of this in the end. There's probably going to be a lot of things here that I had forgotten about I even owned. So this video is pre the declutter that we discussed last time, and back in the day, my larger palettes were all in this little cubby. I had this 3-drawer system that I think the bottom drawer were my eyeshadow palettes at some point. That was a very dark clip. This is a Dior palette. We're kicking things off really, really well here. This I picked up on a trip with work one day. It was in duty free. It was like one of those travel specials. It was all 8 shimmers, like same level of shimmers. There was only one shade I liked, so decluttered it, didn't regret it at all. This was one of the first ABH palettes I tried. This is the World Traveler by ABH. This was okay, but this was nothing like the Modern Renaissance we got later, so I definitely don't regret decluttering this one. It was okay. It gave me a taste for the brand for sure. I think I picked this up in the US. Like, I think in 2015, I went to the US, so this was about a year old. That really old Too Faced thing. I had this for a long time. This is one of the first ever eyeshadow palettes I ever tried. The Naked Eye. You also had the Natural Eye, which had browns. I already knew I was cool tone before I knew I was cool tone, people, because this was a really good cool tone color story. Part of me wishes I had put this in a makeup memory box. This I still have. The Tartelette in Bloom. This is still in my collection. I still use this from time to time. This is such a good beginner eyeshadow palette. This is still around as well. Like, you can still buy this. It has a row of cool tone neutrals at the top, a sort of warmer tone neutrals at the bottom, and then more neutrally things in the middle. And so each row is a look. I love the formula that we get here. Tarte as a brand, though, they're a little bit shady by now. This Stila palette was one of my big loves at the time. Again, something I picked up on a trip to the US. I really like this. I don't remember the exact name of the palette, but especially, yeah, I'm pointing it out here, that dark gray at the bottom, that blue was stunning, but it had so many warm tones in. This Viseart palette was the bane of my existence. This is the Sultry Muse. They still do this, but I bought this when Viseart first came to the market, and I wanted to try the brand because so many people love them. I made the mistake of buying one of their satin palettes. This was totally on me. Should have gotten one of the matte ones. I'm sure I would have liked it better, but I started to appreciate Viseart more once they started doing the more consumer-aimed mattes and shimmer sort of things we got later on. Morphe, I was never a fan of the brand. I think I bought this to try. It was like the 12NB, I believe, neutral browns. I never bought one of the big ones. I've never tried any of the Jaclyn Hill palettes. I never really got the Morphe hype, and I felt like I was the only person on the planet. Like, everybody loved it, and I was like, this just feels like cheap makeup to me. Why is everybody loving this? This Marc Jacobs palette, oh! I got this from Sephora in the US as well, I think, on a trip. I believe it was called, like, the Starlet or the Starlet Eye, something like that. It had all of these metallics in, really pretty. But I didn't really know how to put a look together with this. I had this in a makeup memory box for years because I had bought it on a trip, but it doesn't really hold that much of a connection to me because it wasn't something that I used over and over like some other things. I still have the case. I think some of the eyeshadows in this are in my singles collection. This was by Makeup Forever, and it was just like a sampling of some of their eyeshadows. I think I picked this one up at Sephora France or Italy, something like that, because I did also go on a trip to Italy for the first time, I think in 2016, so must have picked it up there. Still have the case in my bathroom for like little bits that I don't want to lose anywhere. These Inglot shades I still have. I bought a lot of these things when Inglot first came to the Netherlands. They had a standalone store in Amsterdam, and that's where I picked up these singles. This is the Freedom System. I did put the shades into a new Freedom System palette, so I have them all in one palette now. I still use these mini palettes because the magnets in them are really, really strong. So if you have magnetized eyeshadows, for instance, Colourpop or Natasha Denona, I really love the magnet to pull other shadows out, and for instance also for my singles collection. I still use the lids all the time. Then we have my MAC eyeshadows. I still have a lot of these in my singles collection, but I did also declutter quite a lot of them over time. Used to have them in the slimline packaging, then I put them in the double line packaging. The thing with MAC is that their magnetization of the shades and the palettes works the other way round compared to most eyeshadow palettes. So a Z palette, the palette is magnetized and then you put the pan on top. With MAC, it's the other way round. The pans are magnetized and you put it on the metal in the palette, which is why MAC shadows have a hard time sticking down in like a Z palette and stuff. But I've just fused them, like the ones I still have, I fused those into it. But I really had a thing for MAC, and I'm so glad that MAC is back this, like, due to TikTok. Like in the past year, they've gotten a lot of hype, especially for their lipsticks. But things like, you know, Satin Taupe, Patina, those were some of my favorite shades, and I still have those around for sure. Then we have my little Zoeva family. I did definitely expand this over time. The Cocoa Blend. I no longer have that Rose Golden palette, the one with the key on top. Still have the On Taupe. Talked about it the other day with it being one of my favorite discontinued palettes. Love that to pieces. The Blanc Fusion is a great neutral palette with pops of yellow. And then the last one that I'm going to be showing you is the Caramel Melange, which is one of the best warm tone palettes ever made. I still have all of these in my collection till this day, save for the Rose Golden, because that one I never used, and I'm also not missing it. Oh, the 120 color palette. So this is very early makeup days for me. I didn't know how to do looks all that well at the time. And so this was sort of where I got started, when I got started trying to play with color. It was okay for a beginner. This Sephora and Pantone Universe palette I also picked up on a trip. These shadows were so powdery and you couldn't do anything with it. You can tell there's a little bit of a dip in that turquoisey shade that I'm pointing out because it was the only shade I could really wear. Everything else was so chalky and messy, it just went everywhere. I did have this in a makeup memory box for a hot minute, but I did declutter it in the end. The Modern Renaissance. I still have my favorite shades from this palette, but I no longer own the palette itself. I decluttered a lot of my ABH palettes a few years ago, but I kept the shades I liked and put them in 2 of the packaging because that's just the way I knew I would get use out of it. I would always go in with the pinkies and the reds. Like, I never used any of the neutrals in this. I always did a berry smoky eye with this palette, so that's still what I go for. And quite a few of the shades I liked in the Mono Renaissance are in the Soft Glam, which I do still have. The KVD Monarch palette, this is still in a makeup memory box, because if I was going to like keep a palette that I bought on a trip, it would be this one. I think I got it around the same time as some of the others. This is the only one I truly got some use out of. You get a warm tone quad, a more neutrally quad, and a cool tone quad that is a little bit more sparkly. I love the rose gold shade in this. That was absolutely stunning. And I love the packaging of this as well, which is why I got to stay. This is where my love for the Balm got started. I no longer have any of my The Balm palettes, save for the Nude Tude, because that one is special to me. But these were great. The Meet Matte palettes were massive. They had massive pans. They were 40 euros each, which at the time I thought was very pricey for a 9 pan. But then I saw how big these palettes were. I think you got like 23 grams of product. It was impossible to use these up, but they were really good mattes. It's just that color story wise, they didn't really work for me. And I also felt that these palettes taught me why I don't love all matte eyeshadow looks. The Matrimony was probably my favorite of the two, because these shades did work quite well. But I also felt, because I also had the other one, the Matador one, and that one had some really pretty shades in, but also the quality of the shadows wasn't the same in each palette, so that was a bit of a shame. And then we're getting my beloved Nude Tude, which I picked up for like €3 on sale at a store that discontinued it when I was on an Interrail trip. So A, I bought it on a trip, and B, it was super cheap. And 3, it's great to have The Balm palette, because I really feel like The Balm was a brand that had a hold on the online beauty community for a while. And it's a shame, because I don't think they were really able to keep up with where the makeup community went, and therefore nobody talked about them anymore. They were also really hard to get for a while there. I loved some of these shades in, but it was incredibly smoky for me. So in terms of usage, it was never my favorite. So the Nude Dude was actually a little bit more successful for me. This is essentially the Urban Decay Naked 3 I felt. So you have a lot of those same rosy tones in, but this leans a little bit more warm toned. I did declutter this in the end because I ended up using my Naked 3 so much more than I did this. And at the time, there were so many of these rosy tone palettes around. I still have this video, so I know exactly what I had at some time. And I did these overview videos per brand when like my makeup collection was at the height of collectorism, you could say. So that's why I feel I didn't need to keep it around. I still have the memories just fine. And this was the Balm Voyage. I remember buying this on a trip as well. And it had some really pretty shades in, but this never really came together. I was swatching it more so than I was using it. That's what I remember about this one. And this also wasn't the same quality, I felt. That's, I think, one of the reasons why the Balm wasn't more popular. Like, they were very inconsistent depending on what palette you had. Makeup Revolution, I used to have a bunch of these chocolate bar palettes that they did. This is the dupe for the Too Faced chocolate bar palette. I tried this one first because I was unsure of whether I would like the chocolate bar, and Too Faced was really hard to buy for me at the time. So this one is one that I bought to test out, and I should never have bought the Too Faced one. But I know that now. At the time, I really wanted this. It was all over YouTube, and I wanted to enjoy it as much as everyone else did. Not sure anymore what this one was called, but I like those peachy tones it had. I'm not sure. Was this like a sweet peach kind of dupe then? I don't think it was, because a sweet peach definitely didn't have these really dark shades in. At least I don't remember it having those really dark shades in. Anyways, some pretty shades, but I can see why I decluttered this. A lot of Makeup Revolution, I felt like I was buying it, and then I would wear it once or twice, and I would never go back to it. This was one of my favorites. I hated the packaging, but the shades inside it, it was like animal fur inspired, and these shades were my life. The only problem was everything had the same level of satin shimmer, which is why I wasn't reaching for it a whole lot, but shade-wise, this worked really well with the grays and the taupes and all these like different renditions of a brown. It worked really well on my skin tone, I felt. So for a very long time, this was my favorite, but I hated the packaging so much. And this was the Golden Bar, I believe it was called. I don't remember what the other one was called that I just showed you. And this is just, it has a golden undertone in every single shade. 2016 was a wild ride, you guys. The warm tones were everywhere. We're probably going to see some oranges somewhere in this too, because I just know I had a bunch of those things in that I really shouldn't be wearing. Oh, we have more Makeup Revolution, but these are their Flawless palettes, so these are like a different range. These were like dime-sized, smaller pans. I think this is the one I used the most. I used to travel with this quite a bit. It had some really pretty cool tones in, some rosy tones that I really liked. And yeah, so this is one that I did use quite a bit. Like, I was going for quantity over quality at the time, I feel. So nowadays, I feel my makeup collection just stands at a very different point in time. I do think I've changed a lot when it comes to what I like. And then this is a Flawless palette. Oh, it's the all matte one with those, like, everything was so light in this palette, and then it went orange. Like, I don't get this color story. I really, really don't. I remember liking some of those dusty purples in the bottom. That's what I was reaching for. That's why I'm probably pointing them out here as well. But overall, another matte palette. Who am I? Who am I? Fortune Favors the Brave was a blogger, I believe, from the UK. I think this was the first ever Makeup Revolution palette I ever bought. It was really, really pretty at the time. It was just a little bit chalky and it dusted into nothing and it didn't blend all that well. It was gorgeous though. It was a really good palette. I think it's one of the first ever collab palettes I ever bought. I'm not a huge fan of collab palettes overall. And here is another Makeup Revolution palette. This was another style that they did at the time. And here again, you get those gray tones with the peachy tones. It's like everything was peach and orange at the time. Everything was peach and orange at the time. And then we have Too Faced. Here I didn't own the original chocolate bar yet. I did own the semi-sweet because I preferred that over the original chocolate bar. Part of me wishes I hadn't decluttered this, but that I had put it in a makeup memory box. But yeah, this had some more cooler tones in. It was a little bit lighter than the original chocolate bar, but it did have some warm tones in. The Sweet Peach was already in my collection. I remember being really happy being able to find this in London one year when I was on a trip. I had a couple of these shades in a depotted palette that I used to have, but it had chocolate bar shades in and Sweet Peach, and the peach and the chocolate scent started to blend and it smelled really terribly to me, and I hadn't really reached for my rearranged Too Faced palette ever since I had rearranged it, so I knew I could get rid of it. And then this one I also decluttered. This is the Chocolate Bonbons. So the white chocolate bar wasn't in my collection yet at this point. Interesting. Also decluttered this. Don't regret it one bit. I did like some of the pinks with like the gray tones in here, but it felt, again, very random, very haphazard. And I remember really holding off on buying this because I felt the little heart-shaped pans made it look so cheap. I had 3 Lorac palettes at the time. The Pro 2, I think, was the first one I got. This had some cooler tones in, some pops of color. I was always reaching for the same shades in these. I decluttered these over time. These were good for the time. I really liked them at the time. They had a full row of mattes and a full row of shimmers. The shimmers were all satins. You didn't get a whole lot of product in each of the pans, and the formula was really, really soft too, so it was easy to hit pan on. This is the original Pro palette, which I struggled to buy for such a long time. Didn't use this one as much as the other two overall, but I just had shades like this a million times over. I used to own 4 of these, and I've decluttered every single one of them over time. And the last time I decluttered my makeup collection, I did get rid of the final one. The Pro 3 was always my favorite. This was the first ever neutral palette I tried that I felt worked in every single shade for my skin tone. Very often I felt neutral palettes that people were raving about until I tried this were far too dark for me. This worked. I loved all the shades. I have huge dents in this. I didn't quite hit pan on it because I just started veering into other neutral palettes right around the time that I realized that. But this is in a makeup memory box because this is the palette that taught me that I'm fine. I'm fine using neutral shadows. I just need to find the right ones for me. It has a little bit of warmth, but overall, as you can see here, it's quite neutral leaning. It just has those like mustard shades, but that's like the only warm tones you're really getting. Everything else is like cooler / neutral tone leaning, and I feel like Natasha Denona is now the sort of brand I wear instead of something like this. But yeah, this is a beautiful palette, and for a very long time I said this, the Naked 2 and the Naked 3 were the 3 palettes I would repurchase if they ever discontinued it, or if I ever hit pan on it. So that is definitely something I didn't do because I didn't manage to hit pan on it ever since I decided to no longer use it, you could say. So I didn't need that backup, which I'm really glad I held off of. And now I think we're going in for the Mother Load. Yeah, I must have had smaller things too. Like, I must have had these little drugstore things from Revlon and Rimmel and stuff. Not sure where those went. I think this video is just focusing on what was in that bigger, like the bigger palettes in that drawer. But yeah, the Mother Load was, of course, Urban Decay, the first true love when it comes to eyeshadow palettes for me, and what I like collected for quite some time. The Deluxe Shadow Box, that's what this one is called, just had a sampling of classic Urban Decay colorful shades. This is still like in my house. It's part of my makeup memory box. All of my Urban Decay palettes are by now. This is the only one I ever truly got rid of. This is the Sustainable palette. I always think it was called the Vegan palette, but they had this whole series of palettes at the time, and this was the Sustainable palette. So it was bamboo, it had a little hinge with a screw, and the screw was always becoming undone whenever you opened it, so it was always falling apart. And it was the only thing holding the palette together, which wasn't great. This had some classic Urban Decay shades in as well. Half Baked was in there, Twice Baked, Kiddie Pool, I think Midnight Cowboy Rides Again was in there too. And then we get the Naked palettes that were out at the time. The Naked one, still have it. This is the original one I bought at the time. I got the one with the brush, not the one with the eyeliner pencil. Did I get this from Sephora? Like, we had Sephora for a hot minute in the Netherlands, and that's where I think I picked up some of these palettes as well. The Naked 2, still my favorite. I did buy a backup of this, as well as the Naked 3. I decluttered my Naked 2 and Naked 3, but I kept the shades I liked the best from both of these palettes, put them into the Naked 2 packaging, and I MacGyvered my own perfect neutral eyeshadow palette. It worked really well for me, but the shades are getting a little bit old, but I have two completely unopened, unswatched Naked 2 and Naked 3, which is why I wasn't too fussed when I pulled the palettes together and decided to declutter them. I didn't feel that bad about it because I still have two pristine ones that I bought later. But yeah, those are two of my all-time favorite eyeshadow palettes. Can you tell? And the Naked Smoky, this was good, but it was dark. And at the time, I didn't really know how to deal with that. So these really deep shades, I wasn't loving as much. I love the gray tones in this though. Till this day, I still think those three gray tones on the left are absolutely stunning. This walked so the Mary Jane from Melt Cosmetics could run, because I feel that's a very sort of similar vibe, and I like the Melt Mary Jane so much more than I do this. So I still have the Mary Jane in my collection because it kind of fits that same bill. And then we have my beloved Vice palettes. Here they weren't sticky yet. The Vice 1, if I touch it now, it feels so gross. That rubberized packaging, as cute as it looks when you first get it, over time it's going to disintegrate and it's going to get very sticky, and it's going to, like, all the dust and all the fluff is going to get stuck to it. Vice palettes were great, but they didn't have color stories that worked together. It was just a bunch of random shades, so that's why I never really used them all that much. Again, something I was collecting for a while. I went out of my way to get my hands on the Vice 3, which is coming up next, I'm sure. Here we're looking at the Vice 2, which I think, color story-wise, had the best shades in for me. But it was, like I said, very random, very difficult to pull looks out of, which is why I just felt also we got better eyeshadow. The Vice 3, they did the Born to Run a little bit later. The Born to Run is the warmer toned version of the Vice 3. I have both palettes. I've shown you this in comparisons in other videos where I showcase these palettes. Some of the cool tones in the Vice are replaced by warm tones, but all of the colorful things are in the Born to Run. So they simply redid a very popular palette they already did in the past. And yeah, this, as I said, I really had to go out of my way to find that one. And then finally, the Vice 4. This was really beautiful. It had some stunning shades in. I remember buying this because I heard Tati talking about it at the time. I was still following her religiously back in the day. But yeah, it had some really beautiful shades, and that was the thing with the Vice palettes. Like, if you pulled in other shades, it was fine, but with just the palette, it didn't quite work. And I definitely think that once 2016, once this year was over, that's when eyeshadow palettes really took a flight, and we got better things, I feel. Things that made more sense. Here's the tail end of my Urban Decay collection. The 15th anniversary jewelry box was, again, really stunning, but just random shades. Nothing worked together. All of the shades had the same level of shimmer. The shade Omen that's in there, still a beautiful duochrome. The Alice in Wonderland, I can't believe I already have that palette for this long. In my brain, I got it a lot later. But of course, it came out when the Alice in Wonderland movie came out. So, because it was a collab. This had, again, stunning shades in. It was one of those Book of Magic sort of things that Urban Decay was really known for at the time and doing. And I think this was one of my newest Urban Decay palettes at the time. The full spectrum, the rainbow palette that nobody liked. But at the time, you will have seen, like, I didn't own a lot of colorful things. I just had that 120 pan thing and then this in terms of bright color. So this was a step up for me. So I like this, and I didn't really understand why people were hating on it. And if you look at this, and you now look at something that Blend Bunny does, again, Urban Decay walked so Blend Bunny could run, because they're doing the gradient. They're doing the deep tones, a middle row, and a lighter row. I just think that Blend Bunny definitely does it better than Urban Decay did over here. There were definitely some shades in here that didn't quite work. So the gradient wasn't always perfect, and some of the shades, especially in the lighter rows, were really, really patchy. I love the periwinkle blues in here, though. This, like, I have this periwinkle blue eyeshadow stick from Kiko that I've probably had as long as this palette, but it's still going strong. But yeah, that's sort of the entire eyeshadow palette collection that I had back in 2016. And like I said, I still have some of these in makeup memory boxes, but plenty of them have been like decluttered and they're no longer around in my house. The ones that I still have, I think there's only like a few that I'm still using, which is the Tartelette in Bloom and the Zoeva palettes. Those are the only things that are still in use in my makeup collection. Everything else that I have here that I'm showing you is in a makeup memory box if it's still in my house. So I don't feel too bad about that. Like, sometimes eyeshadow is just that good that you want to keep it around forever, and it's fine. It's just, you know, with eyeshadow, it's powder. If you keep it in a dry, dark place, you use it with clean brushes, and you use it with clean fingers all the time, there is really no issue with you being able to use eyeshadow for 15, 20 years easily, because it is a powder. The thing you need to be very careful with is when things start to smell differently, look differently, swatch differently. That's when you know things are going off, which is one of the reasons why I'm so worried with some of these very heavy, flaky eyeshadow formulas that a lot of indie brands are doing. Yes, they look really stunning and sparkly on the eyes, but I already had my Adept Minka palette, the old version, expire on me within 2 years, whereas the Tartelette in Bloom is still in my collection, and it's absolutely fine. It's absolutely fine. So you can keep eyeshadow for a very long time, provided it is a powder formula and it's not that really weird, almost waxy sort of feeling things. You know what I mean with those indie shades that have that very sort of slippery feel to them? They feel more like a cream than a powder. Those are the things that are going to expire on you. Those really, really intense, sparkly things in the Patrick Ta, like the entire row of shimmers in the Patrick Ta, those are the things that are going to expire, no matter how expensive that palette was. So I don't think that eyeshadow formulas have necessarily changed for the better. I definitely think that in terms of longevity and being able to use it for a long time, that eyeshadow quality may have gone down from that perspective. But of course, we have a lot of more interesting like textures and shimmers, and like eyeshadow has come a long way in the past 9 years, I have to say that. So thank you so very much for joining me here today. Let me know in a comment down below, what is an eyeshadow palette that was in this collection video that you also owned at some time? I would be very curious to know. And then I really hope you enjoyed watching this one. Thumbs it up, subscribe, because I will be back with a new video very, very soon. Goodbye.